Welcome. We're glad you stopped by.
Thanks for having me, Elton.
We will get to how you're connected with UpTogether in just a little bit and ask more about your story, ask about your family and all of those good details. But we first asked you about your theme song. There's a reason why Bird Set Free by Sia was playing when everyone entered. Can you just share why that song?
It's hard for me not to get emotional. That song, I mean, I love Sia. I mean, I imagine that some people know who she is on the call. She is about uplifting, very much so. I actually got a chance to see her in New York when I lived in New York, and she ended her concert saying, "I love you, keep going." And I think, you know, many of us on this journey of life try and find our space. And me as a mixed person, as a person of Mexican and African-American descent, you know, it's really hard. I knew where my place was. I had wonderful parents who let us know you're 100% Black, you're 100% Mexican, but the forces against you in a world where there's not a lot of biracial kids, now there's a lot, are tremendous. So for me, the song represents me knowing that who I am. I'm a bird. You guys might not know I am. I might seem like an alien to you, but I'm a bird. And that in many ways, you know, I just love my life so much because I knew that, and I just feel free. I feel like, you know, when everybody else didn't know who they were and preteens and things like that, I was very much so understanding of who I was. So to have a song that represents that, and then me being able to be my full authentic self, it's just powerful. I scream that song to the mountaintops when I listen to it in my car.
Well, thank you for sharing. So tell us a little bit more. Who is your authentic self living in Detroit?
Yeah, I'm so much so a Detroiter. My husband probably wouldn't be back in Detroit if it wasn't for me. I love my city. I loved it pre-gentrification. I consider myself a part of the gentrifiers also, as a professional coming back to Detroit. And I consider myself a person who wants to give back to the city that nurtured me. Also a person who wants to take from the natural resources that are here that I think are owed to me, quite honestly. I have a prayer that I tell my kids every night. It grew out of anxiety after having a human and realizing you actually have to take care of the human. It was each day better than the last, to a long, healthy, safe, and fun life that serves others. I take that serving others super seriously. I'm a certified nurse midwife. I became a certified nurse midwife to love humans, even though midwives are many times not treated very well, and my clientele not treated well. I love so much that these things are becoming trendy so that we can change that. So being in Detroit as a midwife of color, a Black and brown human, identifying as both, you know, Detroit is love. And I get to be my full authentic self as a person of love, of joy, in my current position, as well as just frolicking about the city.
So Jessica, registered nurse, midwife, I imagine you've seen your community in some of its most precious moments, right? Talk about what it's like to support someone through that birthing journey to motherhood.
Yeah, definitely super precious and super independent. You know, I have friends, let's say I have a whole bunch of female friends, and they never ask me about women's health things that they'll tell me later that happened. And I'm like, my goodness, you could call me any hour of the night, you know this, I'm here. But these journeys are very independent journeys. Many of the journeys that women go through, or people who identify as women go through, are very precious journeys. So I get to meet somebody where they're at. I love so much. So I'm aggressively loving and aggressively nice. So when people come into my room, they're able to be their authentic self. Many times birth is a wonderful experience, but sometimes it's not. And allowing people to have conversations that they want to have, not idealistic conversations. I consider myself midwife X. I'm very loving and cool like that, but I believe in the remix and keeping it real with people. So people get to come into the room with me and enjoy a time that is about them. You know, I use that word authentic. I think I allow others to be authentic because of my history, because of being that bird that's been set free. I want to give people the opportunity to do the same. And with birth, it's super important because many times we're fed the idea that people can have idealistic birth, like it's going to be perfect. And you make this plan and you come in, it's going to be perfect. Whereas if we told people that there's the chance that things could change, it would really lower women's feelings of failure and have better outcomes. Because as soon as you think you failed, you're done. So things start to happen to you. So yeah, I hope that's what I give people. And my goal as a provider is to make sure that I'm giving somebody that realistic presentation of health that's full of love, that they see somebody who wants to see them. My current role, I work at Chas Center in Southwest Detroit. I was a patient here. My house is a 3-minute walk. My old house that I grew up in prior to going to college, 3-minute walk away from here. I got my first vaccines here. They looked up, I got a flu shot. They looked up when I got my flu shot. They saw that I was first a patient here at 6 months and 20 days old, and I'm now 37 plus years old. So I take a lot of pride in being here. My patients are my family. They know it. I make sure to be expressive in that way.
Can you share a little bit about what you've observed from members in the community who are in this journey, and who you're kind of serving when they're coming to you?
Yeah, my clinic, CHAS, stands for Community Health and Social Services. So many of the issues that we see are social issues. That goes for anybody. I mean, our community as well as any other community. Many times they're overshadowed with money and wealth, but people still have issues. So people coming in have issues like transportation issues, so far as income, immigration, lack of support in general, mental health issues, which I believe many of us have, whether they're identified or not, and have increased very much so throughout our time of being isolated and not knowing what to do in terms of COVID. So we're seeing those social issues. We're also seeing families and love. I work a night clinic Tuesday nights, where many times the people who want those visits are people who want to come with the father of the baby, which, because they're working all day, can't be a part of prenatal care. So I get to see dads who very much so want to be present. I engage dads on an annoying level, because many times dads are not spoken to. So I make sure that they're a part of the conversations that we're having. I also take care of GYN patients, so it's not just OB. So many times our communities don't receive preventative health information, specifically like just how to wipe after voiding, or different very simple things that we take for granted, but can be the difference between like 10 office visits over your lifetime. That you don't have money to see if you don't have insurance. Many times our patients don't, as immigrants, $75 a visit, plus whatever the labs come to. So we have patients who have a lot of, their social determinants of health really change quite a bit. But we also see the humanity of things. And I think it's easier to see that when you're a part of the community. Not necessary, right? There's people who love our community who are not from here, and I want to pay homage to them. But the fact that I'm from here, it's a bonus. I'm not gonna lie. The reason why I became a midwife is to serve this community specifically. Detroit as a whole, but this community. If I could, I'm like, I want to, that savior complex that we shouldn't have. a little bit of that.
But serving the community, but have you noticed that the community can help itself as well?
Oh, most definitely. But we have to be given a voice. Many of us take the back seat just to get the crumbs. We're so excited to get anything that we will still take less than what we deserve. But a person could walk into my office and know that I'm giving them the wrong visit, or like the wrong paper, like something really like erroneous and like shouldn't even do it. They won't say anything to me because they don't want to sacrifice their care. Or a person won't need a mammogram, but through the program that we use, BCCCP, breast cancer, cervical cancer prevention, a person can receive after 40 PAP and a mammogram. The person could already have a mammogram, not need one, but they may just take it because they're scared if they say no, that it will affect their ability to get resources or have things paid for in the future. They will put their body through that again. Not to say it's the most terrible thing in the world, but they'll get a PAP again. They don't need it. So we're used to taking the crumbs. not understanding that we need the slice or the loaf, if you will.
Love that response. We definitely will get back to that in just a moment, but I want to take some time a little bit early in this conversation to really focus on something that you mentioned in maybe your first or second answer, that is a change to the narrative, a dispelling of some of the myths about Black love, and that all of our a lot or all Black and brown communities resemble single parent households, and misconceptions along those lines. You are a mother and a wife. Can you talk about your marriage and the importance of that being reflected and elevated?
Yeah, I love my husband. I'm obsessed with him. He annoying levels of love, annoying levels. He's such a calm person, and I'm a little bit out of control at times in my love. But he was a person who wasn't poured into. He decided very young that he wanted to have what I regard as kind of like a hyper traditional like wife and marriage and things like that, because his dad and his mother weren't married. His dad died really young. And when we met, the outpouring, he never received that level of love. Mind you, my parents were very loving. My mom doesn't express in the same way that I do, but I knew that I was loved and I was cared for on a very deep level. My dad has his issues, but super loving, non-abusive environment. We were cultivated to be creative and allowed to be who we were. So having that allowed me to go into my marriage or relationship super young. When we met in college, both from Detroit. He was 20, I was 21, and he couldn't believe that he found somebody he was going to marry at 20. He thought he was going to be a playboy for quite a while in the college setting. But it was just so awesome. The team, we're a team. We're very different. We are synergistic. We communicate. We might have one argument ever in our 16-year relationship, 17-year relationship. We just talk to each other. We know that we're on the same team. I'm Black and Mexican. He's Black, 7 Mile and Greenfield, Southwest Detroit. I never crossed paths until we went to college. I'm a mixed person. I come off very strange and weird. I want to be weird. You told me I was weird when I was a kid. I'm still gonna be weird now. So for him, a very traditional Black man, it was very strange for him to like me, right? It was very strange that this very alternative person, he didn't know that initially. I think he liked maybe the way I looked, but with time, he would like me to have changed in certain ways. I might bring up things that are like different that other people won't say in crowds and things like that. I'm just authentic in that way. That was hard for him initially, but he honored it. I think he wished there was something in his traditional Black male space that he could do himself. So he liked that I had that voice. And then the level of love, I mean, it was undeniable, between us. So we moved home. He went to school for his master's. I went to school for mine.
And by the way, what school? What school? What university?
So I went to nursing school first. So I went to university. We went to Michigan together. I went to University of Rochester in upstate New York. Then I went to Wayne State for my master's, and he went to Wayne State for his master's in business. He moved to New York. He was gone for about 3 years. I was super supportive of that. I think that, we all need to be that. Again, you played the song, Bird Set Free. Everything that we think that we personally need to do, is my belief that we need to do that. I don't want any resentment and things like that. I didn't carry any or harbor any feelings towards him wanting to move. It didn't make me feel bad, when many times I think as women we're taught, or as partners, we're taught that we need to secure this person and keep them where we're at and things of that nature. So he went and he was there and he got pretty bored. He said, I need you to come with me. So we wound up getting married, had our daughter, and I think a month or 3 weeks before her first birthday, we moved home back to Detroit, which was very much so influenced by me, support of our families as well as me, but a team effort. We make decisions. We called it the Knights of the Rectangle Table. We had a rectangle table in New York from IKEA that was kind of great. And we would sit at each side of the table and we'd have our little talking points. We'd go over our finances. We prepped all our food, our menus, things like that. We'd speak Spanish on Sundays. that came and went. So we try and create goals together. We're a team.
What about the goal of your now 5-year-old daughter? Can you share a little bit more about her?
Oh yeah, Arden. Arden means eager and enthusiastic, from the word ardent. I want my daughter to be fun, enthusiastic, but many times as women, we are treated as less than. Our enthusiasm is taken for weakness and not normally paid for. I experienced that in my career also. So her name is what I hope for her. And then I have a son also.
And tell us about your son briefly.
He's almost 2.5. His name's Aaron Saint, and he is a little cutie pie. He's a charmer. You know, my kids, I very much so made sure not to overdo what I believe their identity should be. I just want so much to create just such a beautiful environment for them to be exactly who they are, because of the pains that I had as a mixed person, but just because of my beliefs. And it's so terrible how people are treated. So just for being who you are, because I was treated so bad as a kid, you know, people love me because I'm fun, but excuse me. But my weirdness, I think, you know, because of the way I look in high school, it's like, okay, she's pretty. Whereas with middle school, it was like, you're just weird. It's like, okay, but you're pretty, but you talk weird and you don't care about the same things as us. So it was just, oh, you're here and now you're here. And it was like that much of college and things like that. So my hope is that I will create a safe place to land for my kids.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I was getting ready to ask you if there's anything that you consciously try to shelter your kids from at the moment. And you talked about how you pour into them and wanting to pour in some of the coping skills and things along those lines. But are there things that you see now that you're constantly trying to make sure that, you know, that they aren't the exact mirror of you in your childhood?
Yeah, I had severe anxiety as a kid and panic attacks. Then to be honest with you, my husband healed me in a lot of ways. Me being able to feel safe, having that soft place to land allowed me to kind of unravel those things. And then therapy later in life, but I was a different person way before therapy. When I tell people I suffer from, you know, severe anxiety, they'd be like, are you kidding? You talk so much and you're always, you know, present in a way. So what I hope is that I can give them the coping skills to not have to experience life that way. I was an adult before I was a kid. I live a very jovial experience because I missed out on a lot of kid things, and not at the hand of my parents or anything like that. It was the hands of the community, being just the Mexican people, no thank you. The Black people, no thank you. And having to find your own way and create a safe place because every space seemed so unsafe. So having to be present and read the whole room, read the entire room before anybody even spoke. Make sure everybody's happy around you so they'll even just let you speak. You know, putting words to these things over time, you know, realizing that you don't have any memories, not because anybody was abusing you or trauma in that way, but community trauma, because I had to work so hard to make sure that the room did not have utter disgust for me walking in as a mixed person. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So
why, I'd love to get your perspective on why does community matter to you? Why does your Detroit community matter to you? And why are you so intent on giving back to the community or making certain changes to uplift the rest of your community?
Yeah, I think community is super important because we can create it. With UpTogether, this is the very first time in my existence on this earth that I have been placed in a group with both Black and Brown people. So for me specifically, Mexican and Black people in the same group. This is the first time ever in my life. So to be able to have these conversations, I'm going to speak about this, like I get to be a part of a community, one, where we have a common goal, and two, where we are, you know, the same, essentially. Many times when Black people or brown people are to come together, we're considered a gang. We're considered being inhumane. My husband, when he worked in New York, he said we would not congregate more than 2 Black men together because people would wonder what we're doing, and they start getting emails, such and such is not being productive, not working, things of that nature. It's very much so the same thing. So many times we operate individually because of that trauma of not being able to be together, right? So for me, community is something that I get to choose. I get to create a common goal. I don't have to be scared of things from my childhood, things from my past, because I'm in the driver's seat when it comes to how I show up in my community.
Jessica, you hinted at it just a moment ago. You participated in our community-led design team, where you and 12 other UpTogether members in your Detroit community met for 3 months to kind of discover, design, identify challenges and funding solutions that could impact employees of Black and brown businesses in the city of Detroit. I'd love for you to just share your initial thoughts of that whole process.
Yeah, I think I was the most verbose about how strange it was to me that there was an organization that was giving people money and not asking too many questions. That I think many of the people who we were with could not believe it. And the sole reason that we were coming together was to make it easier for other people in our community. Is rather mind-blowing. It's something that people talk about doing, right? The idealisticness, oh, let's get together and let's make the community great, without the actual action behind it. So my initial, when I received the email like, hey, you can put your name in to see if you'd be a part of this. Even the first email just seemed like kind of like spam, just to be honest. But because I had just, stopped like maternity leave and I was part-time and things like that, I was like, wow, it would be cool to bring some more money in. So that way I can take care of some of the affairs for like my son starting daycare, my mom having knee replacement, things like that. So I said, you know what, I'll throw my name in there. And then I get an email saying, out of 300 people, you were selected. I said, great, that sounds great. But even down to the moment where I had to supply my my social security number, and I expressed this to the team, I was like, should I give this? Is this a scam? Like, and I was not the only one who felt that way. But in terms of just the warmth and just getting together, I just want to say that I think the only thing bad about this is that we're not always together in person. Our team is beautiful. I don't know how something so random could be so beautiful. And it most definitely has to be because we have the same goals. We want to better our Detroit community. We want to fix this thing because so much of us on our team have so many things going on. We actually had a meeting where we had to just take a pause because everybody was going through major life events. Like if you look up major life events on Google and it says what major life events are, all of them were happening within our group. So just being able to speak about that and know that literally everybody cares about everybody. We on our group chat just say good morning and see how everybody's doing and really care and really are checking in. Our facilitator and group design member, Angel, is dynamic in what she does in the community. So we're having a conversation about UpTogether, but we're also sharing resources in the city of Detroit, period. If I have stuff that I can share, okay, if somebody's having this issue or has a friend, okay, point them over here, do this over there. And that's actually one of the things that came out of one of our meetings is that people of Black and brown communities need more sharing of resources. Maybe we can create a digital list. Maybe we can create a printed list. Maybe we can do different things. So through us talking together, it's realizing that we can create a lot of change. And when we're singular, that's very hard. But when we come together, it's quite dynamic. But UpTogether in general, liking it. I am surprised. I'm surprised that it's real.
How long did that shock last before you realized, okay, this is real and this is something that can be used to unlock certain decisions that you're trying to make with your family, certain things that you can do in the community?
I mean, as soon as the check cleared, I guess. So that's that's one thing. But I would say, Elton, that it went through the time, because more recently we had a meeting with you guys and we were going through a poll that we had done about amount of money that a family should receive, at what frequency. And I was not the only one. Many people in the group selected things based on the feeling of poverty, feeling like we could only get crumbs. So we're picking lesser amounts. I wouldn't say the least amounts, but say lesser amounts, picking frequencies that we feel like wouldn't bother anybody. So it took having that conversation and then re-asking you at UpTogether, asking the questions again for me to feel like I was answering them authentically, because I was answering them from a place of, oh, I should just get crumbs. You know, I was talking to my husband, I was like, this is really strange for me to have this conversation because I am a professional. I know the way I'm viewed as a professional, but we all have our moments and the things that we go through. Our needs change. But when you have that trauma, you're still operating from that place. Being a part of UpTogether is allowing me to make choices in my household that would be a little bit different. It would change our comfort. It would change me personally and how I feel like I'm contributing to the whole. Being able to say, oh my gosh, my son's daycare is taken care of after my mother-in-law passed 3 weeks after he started daycare. So we don't have her as a resource. My mom got knee surgery the day before he started daycare. So there's just a lot of reasons why you need resources. And I think UpTogether is meeting us where we're at. And many times we're not met where we're at. We're met with people thinking you should only receive crumbs, and two, you have to have nothing to receive those crumbs. And that will only keep people where they are. You know, that idea of advancement many times is something that is not shared with the Black and Brown community. We don't want you to advance. We want you to stay the same. So what I'm seeing in UpTogether is really that idea of us uplifting, per the name, and bringing different people together to figure out what resources needed, figure out what legislation is needed to make choices on behalf of our communities, and then also to enjoy each other. I mean, there's not many times we're so busy. You know, I think about, you know, the mental health concerns and issues that we have. Many times it's because the mother figure, parents in general, are not at home taking care and nurturing their child, because we're at home, we're at work. So many times we can't even engage in community conversation because our whole day is spoken for. You know, even my husband, Jessica, why are you doing that? You barely have any time to yourself. Because I want to create some change. I can't sit here and live with this no more. This is getting disgusting, and it's not serving me by being quiet, nor is it serving my community. I have my discomforts. I've been through some traumatic things in terms of being a midwife that made me feel like I needed to just go sit in the corner, not worthy of proclaiming the name of midwife, not working and being seen. But I realized that me being seen, no matter how I feel like I'm being viewed, is serving the world more than me being quiet in my little cozy corner in Southwest Detroit.
Thank you for sharing that. I noticed there was one of the meetings that I actually attended where it was your team, your design team, your fellow members were having a conversation. You were leading the meeting, and it got to the point where everyone was kind of talking about their stories, their frustrations, and one of the members started crying, and you unmuted yourself and said, "Adjust your crown." Why was that important in that moment?
So I'm a talker, and I know that I shouldn't always speak. Everybody doesn't need your opinion, nor do they need you to say what you think that you need to say. So, you know, I'm learning to be more aware of myself. And I knew that person needed something, but I knew that they may not have needed me to talk too much. So I just wanted to say, I'm here, I support you, and you're a queen all together.
I know, Jessica, you mentioned childcare was one of the discoveries that are impacting employees of Black and Brown businesses. But I would love for you, Jessica, to just kind of maybe elaborate on why that was one of the things that you experienced just from the 3 months as one of the bigger issues or challenges facing employees of Black and brown business.
For sure. I think, people are very aware of the mass exodus of employees, mostly women, from the workforce during COVID. So let's take that and let's add the idea of being Black and brown. Black and brown people normally making less money, normally having work that requires physical work. So they have to be present for it as opposed to being virtual. Things of that nature. So mothers can't take care of your kid and do the physical labor job at the same time. So if people were to have appropriate childcare, right? And this is childcare that we got to think about. I'm not talking about just anything. So many times when we talk about these crumbs, okay, Black people, y'all can send the kids to wherever. No, why do other people get to make a choice about what their kid is doing, and that it's servicing their kid both recreationally and academically and things of that nature? But we have to just have somebody who kind of can watch kids, or the person who signed up to be a childcare person just because of COVID. So there's layers when I talk about childcare, but mostly the idea that if a mother can't have somebody watching her kids, then how can she work? Father and parent in general. So that's huge, both in general, but more so in the Black and brown community. So what we thought about is the idea of having resources, right? So places people can send their kids is also as well as like people to reach out for financial compensation. Because when we talk about UpTogether and people getting money through UpTogether, right, that's one part. But UpTogether is asking us, what can we do for these communities? Well, if we have a whole bunch of resources, because UpTogether would be only one part of them, then what would those be? So with childcare, knowing organizations that can, help facilitate childcare. Also organizations who, can help new mothers, whether it be with diapers and things of that nature. So we haven't created the list yet, but the idea of creating a resource Rolodex, if you will, for Black and brown employees, so that they're able to not have to sift through things and Google and be put on waiting lists and things like that. We're talking about active resources that are ready and willing to give you the slice and the loaf as opposed to the crumbs.
Jessica, really appreciate you just being vulnerable, being honest, being your authentic self.
Thank you
for the Fireside Chat.
Thanks for having me, everybody.